and welcome back to the Dwarven Tavern. This is a review of a little board game that
Is it a board game?
What
you would consider this?
It's kind of a card dice token game.
No
board. There's no boards. It's a no board game. And it's called Truck Off. We got this at Gen Con a little while back, and we wanted to share it with you.
So, this is a game that can be played between 2 to 6 players, and they're from ages 13 and up, because as you can see, there's a lot of tiny pieces.
A lot of little cardboard pieces.
Lot of little tiny.
You
almost
lost it, and she's a full-grown, semi-competent adult.
I am twice the minimum age that is able to play this, and I still almost dropped everything.
You're twice the age I was when I was only half your age.
Ha. So... the major... Okay, before we get into what's wrong with it, or what's good about it,
we encountered the what's wrong. It began...
fairly early. So, how to play this game. You are in competition with other food trucks, because you are a food truck. I was sashimi rolling.
I was fry hard.
And what you do is you go to each individual venue that is laid out before you, and you compete with other food trucks at those venues. Each venue is paid via whatever the die roll is, which is why there are dice on these. For example, the Food Truck Expo, which is an 8, representing the 8-sided die, is now a 5. So when you are done with the round, you get 5 points from this.
Which is probably represents, I would say, probably thousands of dollars.
Probably.
That's $5,000 from that food truck expo.
Yeah.
That sounds about, or 500.
Yeah, 1,000, 9,000, 20,000. So it varies on the die, and which event it is also varies with how much it is. For example, the gaming con, on the last round I rolled 20, so I got 20 tokens from that.
Because we all know, anyone who's been to a gaming con and stood in line at a food truck knows how long it takes to get to that freaking food truck from the end of the line.
Right. So how you play...
they clean up. ...is
between 2 or more players. For 2 players, there's actually an, I want to say Autobot.
That's kind of what it is. And this one was Game Jammin', which was, I don't know what they sell to eat, but...
They sell jam.
It looks like French fries or noodles and jelly beans.
Who knows?
Jelly beans or multicolored boiled eggs. I don't know.
It's supposed to represent a board game.
Yeah, I know, but
this is known as Barry, and Barry is he's a third player for some reason. I'm not quite sure why you needed a third player.
They wanted to give you extra competition or something,
I guess. Yeah. But anyway, it's the quote-unquote 3 players against one another. So what you do is you take 2 of your food trucks, which all have a die on the back to symbolize where they go, and depending on who's playing and how many players you've got certain venues available to you. So for example, I wanted to set down on the 10, which is the concert, then I place that there. You place at least 2 food trucks around.
Or food 2 trucks.
Food 2 trucks. Around. You start with 2. So you're allowed to pick whichever ones you want, and you place them on whichever venue you want. I don't know why you would pick anything other than
the top 2, the gaming con and the sporting event.
But anyway, that's where we placed our trucks. Then, after everybody's placed their trucks, you do the die roll. And I guess that means, like, you can still end up with higher here.
Oh, you could. I mean, you could roll a higher number on an 8-sided die than a 12.
Yeah. I mean,
or
it's
20.
possible, but it's not likely.
But it's really interesting to me, because the sporting event and the gaming con are the 2 highest paid venues, and that just happens to be Gen Con is at Colt Stadium. So I think they probably made this game with Gen Con in mind.
Fun fact, did you know that Gen Con uses the stadium more than the Colts?
Than the Colts, I know.
Anyway, the next part is that everybody has a color-coded stack of cards that they use. You shuffle these with the other cards that are belonging to the other players. For example, I was beige, I guess, and then
You are beige.
Dad was green. Thanks. So you shuffle these and then you lay them out in front of the players. Let me give a small demonstration, like so.
That's beautifully
Thanks.
executed. I
So-
love the way the cards are all facing in a different direction. That's great.
I tried.
Yeah.
So these are all his cards, but this is how the cards are laid out. They have cards over top of the ones in the back. And this is supposed to be representing that you can't select all the cards. But it's also weird because it says that you can't select the cards that are underneath the front row. But everybody can pick their cards simultaneously.
And there's no limit to the number of cards you can pick.
Which means that you can, once the top cards are picked off, you can just keep picking. It wasn't very clear.
So why not just deal them out?
Yeah, so we just honestly just picked them all up. If there is a rule that you're not allowed to, God, I can't do it.
Let me see it.
If you're not allowed to pick the ones up at all, then I can understand that, but it wasn't very clearly defined in the rules. And
I'm going to look at them now.
I just don't understand why they weren't just dealt, because it didn't really make that much of a difference. Then, with your cards, you then do the action on the card, which, for example, this says place another truck. So I would take a truck like this and place it on another venue, and that would give me more money. I'm assuming the reason that the numbers are on the back is because you can't place multiple trucks on the same venue, but I also don't think that that's accurate.
I don't think it is possible because you're supposed to have one truck with the
number.
With the number. You're supposed to have one truck with a corresponding number to the venue.
Yeah.
But you are also allowed to move your truck.
Yeah, and so it
depending
doesn't
on if you have a card that says move truck.
Doesn't really make sense. So, once you've done all your actions, you then, it should be mentioned that the Autobot Berry, I don't remember what he's called, the automated player doesn't get actions.
Autoplay Berry.
Autoplay Berry. Autobot, roll out.
Autobot, he is.
So, once everybody has played their cards and done everything that they've, were gonna do, we didn't do payout, which is for every card there is a truck on, you give a divided number to that truck. For example, this die says 1, so I get 1. So I get one of these small little guys. Then because there are 2 trucks here...
That was my money.
Sorry. Then because there are 2 trucks here, we divide between these 2 trucks. However, this one has a double token, which means that it gets double that number. So since this is an odd number, it gets divided while subtracting 1. So for example, it is a 9. You subtract 1, divide it by 2, they both get 4. However, 1 gets double, so they get 8. So I would get 4, he would get 8. And then you go through the line of cards that way. Once everybody has their payout, you recycle and you do it again. And this happens for 4 rounds, and at the end of the 4th round, whoever has the most money wins. Mm-hmm. I won! I got
She won
114 tokens.
Yep.
Yeah. So
and it was it might be noted that if you're playing more than 2 people, you go for 5 rounds instead of 4.
Yeah. So that's the game in a nutshell.
Where it belongs.
How did you feel about this game?
I felt like it was. I think it's a neat concept, but if it had been play tested a little bit more, I think they would have
fine-tuned it.
They would have fine-tuned it a little more. There were several unnecessary. There were unnecessary points to the game and undesirable elements of the game, like the money tokens.
They're so small.
They're tiny.
And if you're got sweaty hands like I do, they won't let go of you.
They won't let go.
And that could be bad.
And that'll be, and as a rule of thumb, the more pieces of a game, the easier it is to lose some of said pieces, and the sooner that game will become
catastrophe.
Yeah, it will become lame. It will become completely disabled because you've lost the pieces.
Yeah. These pieces did come in whatever these are called. Cutouts.
Yeah, they were cutouts. They were cutout cardboard pieces.
However, they did include, which I thought was pretty nice of them, they included baggies to put these pieces in.
Yeah.
So, what did you like about the game?
What did I like about the game? I liked the concept of the game. I especially liked the each card has an action, but it also has the name of a movie that has been adapted to food, like Bill and Ted's Bogus Jerky, Reservoir Hot Dogs, Forrest Gumbo, The Breakfast Club Sandwich.
Are they just movie titles or are they also song titles?
The Brave Little Toaster Strudel.
I love
Lord
that
of
one.
the Fries, The Empire Stakes Back, The Hills Have Fries, Princess Mononoke, and so forth. Macklemore. So some of them are movies, and it looks like all yours are all song titles.
So they may vary.
Oh, and the other one is the name of TV series, How I Met Your Smothered Pork Chops. The Walking Bread. Sesame Chicken Street.
So they vary depending on which food truck it is.
Hogan's Gyros. That's really clever, and I like it. It's funny. I wish they had put as much energy into the game as they did into these names.
Tiny tokens.
Stranger Wings. Sailor Moon Pies.
What didn't you like about it?
What did I like? The large number of pieces. The superfluous moves.
So many pieces.
Mashed potatoes. The game mechanics seemed a little clunky. I think if they had taken things out, the game would have been over too quick.
Yeah.
So they might have spiced it up a little bit more with that lattice thing instead of just dealing the cards.
I don't think spiced it up is what it is. I think they tried to fatten it up. And it just felt like a lot of unnecessary chemicals. So what I liked about it was I really liked I liked the cards and the die roll to determine how much each venue paid out. I thought that was pretty clever. And were the dice, I feel like if they were all the same type of dice, like for example if they were all 12-sided dice, I feel like that would be a little more competitive and maybe more fun for the game.
Yeah, it needed a little tweaking. I think they may have released it too quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know how long they worked on it or how much they were, how much they were pressed to get the game out, but it just seemed like it was released before it was fully fleshed out.
So a side note is that all of these trucks they have the numbers on them, but instead of having 8s, we had 2 10s.
Yeah,
so
that was odd.
That seemed rushed too because we were supposed to have trucks of all the individual numbers, and yet we had 20s, 12s, 8s, or 20 12s, 6 4s, and 2 10s, which that's not appropriate. So I felt like that was part of the kind of a rush job. Something else is that a lot of this felt unnecessary, and
like the first piece.
Yeah, that why the round tracker, while thoughtful, also kind of unnecessary. The lattice design for drawing cards felt unnecessary. Why not just draw 5 cards?
Right.
Like a lot of it just didn't really make sense. So all in all, I feel like while this game could have been really fun, it felt rushed and put together too quickly, and therefore lost a lot of its potential.
I agree with that assessment completely. It just, like, the number of pieces, the unnecessary steps and things, It detracted quite a bit to me from the game.
I mean, the artwork kind of looks like a kid's game, but I mean, I guess it's supposed to be.
I wouldn't let a little kid play this.
No.
I mean, these things they're cardboard, so they would be very saliva sensitive. So if you had somebody who wanted to put the game in their mouth,
yeah,
you just kiss the game goodbye. But what does it say? It have an age?
Yeah, it says 13 and up.
13 and up. So yeah. Although I know some 13-year-olds that would probably still put these pieces in their mouths.
On a dare, probably.
On a dare.
But anyway, this feels like a kid's game, but it has, I guess, it has the potential of being an older game. It does not have any sort of... I mean, it's got some tiny little replay value, but not any worth, like, going out of my way and playing it. If I didn't have any other games, maybe.
Yeah, you wouldn't have a Saturday night truck off party.
No, this game felt rushed. It felt complicated and cluttered.
Yeah, it's a really good assessment, I think.
So, also it said once you get the game value, like when you get the game down pat, you have a daily special, which an event happens to affect the game. For example, before payouts, receive a $5 one-time bonus if you have 2 trucks at this venue. So that just means that you get paid more.
Yeah.
Or in the clear, instead of executing an action, pay $2 to move your truck away from this venue. So, like, a lot of the game mechanics feel contradictory to the initial rule set, which was gigantic, by the way. Like, the rules themselves were very clunky, and there's a lot of pages, and yet information was lacking. So, all in all, I feel like this game had a lot of potential, and it was missed.
Yeah.
Very slightly. So, what would you give this game?
I would give this game 2 out of 5 axes because there was a part of it that was clever, but that was it. We played it once, so that's like half an hour of my life, and I'll never get back. And so it missed the mark. I mean, it didn't give the feeling, because my personal rating system is, did it fill its purpose? Did it serve its purpose? Did it do what it was supposed to? And I've actually worked in a food truck, so and that doesn't mean you have to be in the business to.
Because I didn't.
Like, certainly some of these board games that are like Mafia, you don't have to be in the Mafia to play the game and know that it does. But there was no real super sense of competition. And there was no...
Well, there was. We kind of worked together against Autoplay Barry.
Yeah.
Fuck Barry.
If he was an Autobot, he would be like Dickatron or Acetron.
You mean he's a Decepticon?
He's a Dicksepticon.
Just fuck Barry.
Yeah, we didn't like Barry. So there was that, but it didn't have the food truck feel. It just had the nomenclature.
Yeah.
It had the terminology of the food trucks, but that was it. It didn't really make you feel like you were working in a food truck and going to different venues and stuff like that. It didn't capture that at all.
It felt more like someone had an idea for a lot of names, and they were, they had a lot of things that they were clever about, which the naming in this was very clever. But that's all they really had to work with, and then they had to base a game around it. And that's not a way to make a game, I don't think.
I agree. It's like having the first few lines of a chorus and then writing an entire song around it with no idea what you're supposed to do. It doesn't make a very good song.
It can work, but very rarely does it actually provide a proficient system.
Right.
I'm also going to give it a 2. I feel like it was very misleading, I guess.
Yeah.
It felt very underwhelming. And like even before we started, like when I saw how many pieces were in, I'm like, oh, I don't even want to play it. And that's not how you should ever approach a game.
Right. And just because it's a little box and it's a little game doesn't mean it has to be a small game.
Right, exactly. Because that was one of the things that we thought was bad about this, is that it was so small. Like the tokens were just unnecessary. Like you could have approached that in so many different ways, like cards. Just give more cards.
Give more a couple more cards or something instead of doing all this.
Right, like there was a lot of unnecessary elements to it. So I'm gonna give it a 2.
Okay, so that's 2 stars for Truck Off.
That's twice that you've.
I've said stars, son of a gun. Holy crap. So this goes for how much?
2 axes. That's 2 axes.
It is 2 axes, and I'm gonna shot myself in the face for saying stars. There's no price on this, so I guess it must be worthless. I don't know. It's priceless. It doesn't come with a price. So I don't know how much it costs. It doesn't matter. I wouldn't buy it.
So it's made by Adam's Apple Games.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what else they've done, but I'm gonna look into them, see if we can't
find something that's better.
Yeah. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe this was a fluke. We'll find out.
Well.
Let us know in the comments if you've played this game. If you're interested in playing this game, check them out. Maybe you can prove us wrong. Maybe we've done something wrong to make this game a lot worse than it actually is. Here's hoping.
You never know.
So, on that note, we have been the Dwarven Tavern. I am Lyric.
We'll continue to be the Dwarven Tavern, and I am Dr. Jeff Collins.
And on behalf of the entire cast and crew of that Dwarven Tavern, we wish for you to want for nothing but adventure. And at first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks, guys, for so much for watching, and I'll get this right eventually. And we will see you next time. For fuck's sake, why can't I say it?